The following episode of the Carnival of Randomness is sponsored by an important message to you, the people, from Upsitnik and Associates. Every day there are forces that are taking from you, stealing from you. Your money, your time, your freedom. Immense faceless corporations, banks, credit card companies, insurance providers, government agencies, this list goes on and on. When you are under attack and facing crisis, turn to us, Upsitnik and Associates, attorneys for you, the people. When every day becomes a battle, we can advise and assist. We have been advocates for 40 years. Email us through upsitnikslaw.com or call us at 1-866-391-3299 or reach out to us through Upsitnik and Associates on Facebook for a prompt, no obligation communication and consultation. Don't be pushed around.
Hi, this is the Carnival of Randomness, and this is Rob.
Hi.
And Caitlyn.
Hello.
And Zach.
I'm last this time.
And I'm Patrick.
Oh, maybe not. So we decided to switch it up, because we have guests, and, you know what? You do the intro, because I didn't think of one.
Yeah. I was all thinking of all these bizarre things about popping in the multiverse or quantum realm or something.
Quantum Leap. Hey, speaking of Quantum Leap, TV shows.
Yes.
Sci-fi, history,
movies,
fantasy, everything.
I always call them genre shows. This is my term for it because it's just to encompass everything.
It's a good catch-all.
Kind of the bucket they get put in, in the industry.
But one of the ones I wanted to start with is the be-all and end-all that you're not a fan of or proud of to be a big fan of, because Buffy.
I like Buffy. But no, I actually have a question. For the huge Buffy fans, thoughts on the movie?
I love that movie.
That predated the TV show, mind you. And I'm telling Christy Swanson what you said.
All I remember is Pee Wee Herman going, ow.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Pee Wee Herman.
I mean, Joss Whedon himself hated it, and so I felt justified hating it myself. And I don't know,
I own it.
The show is so much better by.
Oh, absolutely.
I could tell the story where I remember the movie.
If you think of it as a different thing, maybe.
Yeah, you can't look at it and say I loved Paul Rubens was great. I liked Luke Perry. I thought he was very funny. And Donald Sutherland. You know, there was a lot. It was a fun movie.
Rutger Hauer, lest you forget.
Rutger Hauer,
Rutger Hauer, too.
Dracula outfit.
Really?
Yeah, he was
before going on to greater success in Hobo with a Shotgun.
Hobo with a Shotgun.
One of the things I would say, I saw the movie, I forgot about it, thankfully, because it was terrible.
I forgot it,
so literally, I'm reading comic books, and there's one of those milk ads with Sarah Michelle Gellar on the back, and it's Buffy. So I didn't pay attention to it. Then I realized there's a series thinking, I want to watch this. Yeah. So I still remember the day I'm playing with my computer, putting some stuff on. I had the WB on in the background. And they had a Buffy episode.
Yeah.
And I just got drawn into it. It was the second season. Yep. And all of a sudden, I became obsessed where if I started getting the shakes during the day if I wasn't home. And one of the offshoots, though, I got addicted to Dawson's Creek.
Oh boy!
See,
I could see myself.
I can't follow you there.
I could see myself as Joey Potter being between Dawson, but Dawson was so good. But I just did because I would start watching it, and it really just affected me. And the amazing thing about the show, one of my friends who went beyond it because she was sort of had issues about being on a radio show, a podcast. She didn't think she'd have anything to talk about. Then we talked 3 hours on Buffy.
Right.
So, and she said growing up, she remembers seeing it when she was young. It's sort of like in terms of feminism.
Yeah, really progressive
she would
for its time.
wear her hair like Buffy. And there's an obsession I've seen. If you're a fan of it, like I mean, it's really. There's no other show.
Yeah, and it's not like one of those in-between things where you're like, it's okay. You either love it or you think it's trash. It's like there's no in-between, and like the people who love it really love. There's a podcast called Buffering the Vampire Slayer that I listen to. I know.
That's funny.
But it's awesome. And it's
I'm going to have to try that one next time. Fat Man on Batman.
Yeah, it's Jenny Owen Youngs and her wife, or I think maybe
I know. Yeah, I actually know her.
Yeah, and they talk about every episode. Like from the beginning to the end, and then they have like little bits, and they write little songs for the characters.
Well, one of my highlights of my year for Christmas, I sent you a picture of it. Actually, was I got a Funko Pop Death and a Funko Pop Willow.
Oh yeah.
And that was like the highlight. It's sitting on my dog's food cans.
Nice.
It's pride though, but I was really just got into it, and once I did, and the thing about the show I like to take any other show. it would just go from high school from year one till the end.
Mm-hmm.
This show changed every year.
It started off real campy, and then it ends up getting really serious and deep, and the characters get more complex, and
It was better than it had any business being, which is how I would refer to it. People say, "Oh, Buffy the Vampire." It's better than it has any business being. Yep. It's so well done.
You hear something like that, oh, this is going to be stupid, and then you look at it and they go, they really took. Thing that bothered me, and this is, I don't want to be serious on the show, but one of the things, it's a TV show, but the thing was Spike, like the rape scene.
Oh,
How could you ever then after that go out with them or anything?
Well, yeah.
There was some,
she didn't, though.
That bothered me.
They didn't end up together.
No, so I know she had that thing about, oh, I'm all right for Buffy. Telling me I'm lying. Remember Xander?
No, well, I mean, I don't, like, they didn't, and there was nothing that happened with them after that, so, I mean... And again, he changed for the better. He got a soul. He didn't have a soul that whole time.
Yeah, there was the...
And again, it's one of those things where I feel like we are in this zone right now, like politically and just conversationally, where everything is black and white. You are either all good or all bad, and all these things are just like so polarized, and people are much more complicated than that. And saying that doesn't normalize bad behavior.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like empathy is not the same thing as normalizing something. It's just trying to understand people and trying to like figure out why people do what they do.
And Humanity is a spectrum on every level.
Yeah.
And I admit, I use Buffy still for my life now.
Absolutely.
I usually use, I remember saying I had a superiority complex.
Yes,
like
I think about that a lot.
I think about I think about, I'm like, I'm Buffy. Buffy. I want to be Willow, but I'm Buffy.
And he goes, you have a superiority complex and you have an inferiority complex about it.
And I'm saying, that's me. But then the other one, too, I love, one of my all-time, probably my favorite episodes, Doppelgang Land.
Oh, of course. That's a great one.
That's great. But the other one is, I really love the end of Lie to Me.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it's like, lie to me. Okay, every villain is black.
Yep, they're
Maybe
all
they have
bad.
horns. But it became something more, and it's really, I think it endears, and I fear when there's going to be a remake or something.
I guarantee you.
There is a...
No, for real?
Well, they're continuing it, I think.
Yeah.
It's not an actual remake, it's like a continuation.
Yeah.
But depends who got their hands on it.
I don't know, but also there's a comic series.
I've read the comic.
I know this girl, Jordy. She was a colorist at first. Now she's writing Buffy, and it's awesome.
It is. I have shots.
It's just continued directly off the series.
Yeah.
There was one.
She's got that like voice down really well.
There's just this one person at the comic store. He's one of these people. You ever get these ones where they come in and they will spoil you even if you say. And he would come and read the comic book for me because I would amass like 5 issues and read the whole story. So I didn't read it yet. He'd come in. I'd be quiet. Oh, did you see?
You see how this guy died or that girl? Yeah, it's
that's cool for you when you do yours because you know.
I love giving out wrong spoilers.
Oh yeah.
I would like with the Harry Potter thing. I just yelled out like, Voldemort gives birth to Harry's love child.
No, I would lie and say I can't believe they killed, and people would look at me like I'm not going to tell you.
The radio star. Video did it.
But we could do a whole episode on Buffy, really. How'd you get into it?
I got into it. I had friends, very good friends, who were all about it, and I was just skeptical of the whole thing. And then I just, like, late night, it would come on, reruns would come on late night, and I started taping them.
Yeah.
And then watching them. Yes, taping them and watching them in secret. Because I didn't want the person I was living with to know I was watching. And then they got into it as well. So then we.
There was a joke about the comic store years ago where we would say we had a big diverse crowd who used to come in. You would have that construction worker, and we would say you'd have his buddies over watching beer and football. But if you went up to the bathroom, went to the wrong room, you'd see his room filled with his action figures and models.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And how did you get into it, Buffy?
Buffy, I just was when I was a teenager, growing up. Watching it, I had no shame. I watched it all the time. I didn't care. But yeah, no, I just loved it from the beginning. My family's really cool, so cool and nerdy, so they watched it with me sometimes.
Did you think the ending was? That was the one thing. Did you like the ending or not? Or
I liked the ending between her and Spike. I liked that how that ended, but. It was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't have too many feelings about it.
Endings are tough.
Endings are tough.
Literally, I remember being at the store and seeing Entertainment Weekly, and it had a picture of Sarah Michelle on it saying, "This is the end." It was the end. I was starting. I could have called my friend up saying, "No."
Well, it's like when people get all upset about endings, I just think, well, we should be so grateful for the amazing ride we had
and
for so long that who cares how it
I call her my
And what's
Buffy
better-
sister, Melissa. And you know Melissa, I think, Beth's partner. Beth Bailey's partner. Maybe met her.
Maybe.
My theater interactions. But anyways, we would just get into it obsessively. We went out to dinner the day after and talk about it. How are you about it? How are you? I cried 3 times. Yeah, I cried.
Well, you look at it this way: how many shows get canceled
And
and
never
they
get
just
there
never they just stop?
Yeah.
And what is it? Is it better to have a show that just stops in the middle, or a show that actually has a finale? Because
Well,
people always seem to be disappointed by finales, but at
Yeah,
the same time, at least you get some kind of closure. And
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Really.
exactly, there's no right answer.
Well, then you get Firefly when everyone's all upset about it. But what if?
Well, let's go on to
What if it had gotten
Firefly.
worse? What if it had gotten bad?
Yeah,
Like we got like a really golden set of episodes.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
One of my professors used to say, "'Tis better to hand in 1 page of gold than 10 pages of tin."
Yep.
So it's like sometimes quality isn't best. Like you look at some shows that have just continued to run, like NCIS or not NCIS, CSI.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that ran about 7 seasons past its prime.
I think we've gotten to the point now, almost like the BBC now, where you have shorter seasons, you have limited series.
Yeah, limited series I think are going to be a thing we're going to see more of.
Because I have to say,
Which is
about
good.
The Terror.
very good.
If anybody's watched The Terror or not, it's based on a book, and basically they ended what was happening in the book the first season, but it's going to continue.
I think they said they're doing one more season, just kind of like speculative.
And American
season.
Gods too. Have you watched American Gods?
No, I read the book, but I haven't seen the show yet.
I enjoy
Being a
the show
Neil
very
fan
much.
as you are and everything, it's pretty good.
It's funny. I like his comics more than I like his books. Like I've tried his books, and I actually like the Sandman more.
I admit, Ocean at the End of the Lane, I couldn't get through.
I actually have that one on my shelf.
Good Omens is coming out.
Oh, Tim, that's more
And
Terry.
that is going to be like that's there's no continuation.
That's more
series.
Terry
One, so-
Pratchett, I
It's Terry
think,
Pratchett.
too.
Well,
Well, yeah.
it's the two of them.
Well, that's the other reason why they but Neil Gaiman is they wanted to do it. There was almost a movie.
Well, how could you not like
series.
where the Antichrist is the good guy?
Right.
And I guess Pratchett or Neil, when he would get it to sign, he would sign "burn this" because he wanted to get everybody mad.
Nice.
But I've never I actually have collector stuff. I have the English version, the British version of Neverwhere, which was like a short TV series,
Yeah.
and I guess they changed it all for America because of the lingo and everything. But I mean, how can you not love Sandman? And that's just we've talked about this before. It's just utterly incredible. It's just Neil rules. But Firefly now, the way I got into Firefly is a friend called me begging me to go see Serenity. And I was like, whatever. Then I heard everybody saying, oh, it's really good. And it really was.
Yeah.
And then I went back and actually got the series when Media Play was going out of business. I got the series for $9.99.
Cool.
I got the I had it came out and I remember seeing a commercial for it and seeing, oh, that looks like a cool show. Let me keep an eye on that. And then by the time I realized, oh yeah, what was happening to that Firefly show? It was gone. And then I got into Buffy and I didn't know that. I didn't know Joss Whedon from anyone.
Gotcha.
And I was at Media Play going through TV series and I picked up Firefly. I'm like, oh yeah, this was that thing. And I'm like, wait, this is Joss Whedon? This is $14.99? I'm going to buy this.
On a side note, did anybody watch Dollhouse?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's you hit the nail on the head there.
Sorry.
We can't all be great.
Dollhouse was very
Opinions
ambitious.
about that show.
Oh,
It was
you can
very
say it,
ambitious,
please.
but yeah, it was
The
problematic.
ambitious
to say.
swing and a miss is what I
Yeah.
would call it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It was ambitious, but how do you fall in love with a character who's a different person every episode?
Yeah.
And also, just the acting in general wasn't. I mean, and like the storyline was kind of convoluted. I don't know. It just didn't come together for me. But
It was the direction it was going and where it got to was like one of those things where it was just like, okay, there's a way easier way to get to this kind of story than
I think
than
actually
that.
maybe it's not the same, but I think it was done that show The Pretender. It's about
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy Jared. He escapes from a government lab and he's got the abilities to adapt to.
Yeah,
and they're
he's-
looking for him, but it's done a little better where he can morph into like the talents like around something.
okay. Yeah, no.
It had the backstory to that show is very deep. Deeper than any CBS show had any business being at the time
Right.
Or to this day.
or to this day. With the exception, what else? I like Discovery, but that's we can talk about that.
Anybody else watch Discovery?
Yeah, I watched the first season. I haven't seen the second.
Are you a
season
Star
yet.
Trek fan?
Oh yes.
I am too. I'm a huge. For which one?
Next Generation is my game.
I still like the original.
Wow.
Well, the original has a lot of classic themes.
Point. It laid the groundwork. Sorry, William Shatner.
Thing was, I remember growing up, my grandmother used to watch it all the time. It was on at 7 at night. And I remember freaking out about the Gorn episode. and watching going, and my grandmother, he's not going to die. He's the star of the show. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh,
Plus, he didn't have a red shirt on.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Nah, I like that one, but for me, it was Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. Those were the peaks.
Thing about the first one, I watched it again on Swanguli, and I mean it's dated, obviously, it's silly, but I think there's a chemistry before, and even if they all hated Shatner's guts,
Sure.
there's a chemistry.
First interracial on-screen kiss in television history.
And Martin Luther King, I guess, called Nichelle Nichols, said you can't leave the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's story because she wanted to leave. She was getting disgusted that she didn't.
Yeah, the Peacemaker, basically a thinly veiled threat to her in her career if she did not continue on with Star Trek.
He said you have to do it for her. But
Yeah.
that's the first.
Wow.
Yeah.
But some of them are really dated. The one that gets me is the one, the Omega Glory, with the Yangs and the Khans, and they end up on this world where the communists and. So the thing is, they do the E-Play amnesty at the end. I put this up for 4th of July on Facebook of Captain Kirk saluting the flag. Mike Murray always say, yeah, good for. So the thing was, okay, he's like trying to read the words.
Yeah.
And Kirk's going, it sounds familiar. Then he goes, now finish this sentence. And he says, with liberty and justice for all, he spoke the sacred words. How do they know whether the words when they're not pronouncing them right? And the other one was when they end up in Rome.
Universal Translate?
When they end up in Rome.
Babblefish.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Hitchhiker. Actually, speaking of that, I just finally watched. Years later, I got out of the library. They had the 6-part BBC adaptation from the radio show of Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy.
How was that?
It was good.
Would you like to read some Vogon poetry?
Oh God. No, please.
The worst poetry in the galaxy. Then, what'd you think of my poem? Well, I liked it. It was not at all. I'm going to still toss you out of the freaking ship.
Yeah.
But then,
It was one of the better adaptations, I think.
I never listened to it. So I saw the movie, but I didn't.
Yeah, the movie was.
It's okay.
If it didn't have Alan Rickman, it would have been a lot worse than it
Yeah, Alan
was.
Rickman kind of stole the show.
Yeah.
And he was just a voice.
Yeah, and he was. A
I
voice
have
of a robot.
I have the little scroll game for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. One of those where you press it in, they just do it. And I have the little "Don't Panic" button.
Oh yeah, I remember reading the scene with the whale and the petunia plant.
Yep.
And they were falling at the same time. That was one of the funniest things I've ever read.
Oh, you ever read Discworld?
No, I can't get a hold of an audiobook version because I can't look at things anymore. I have to draw all the time, so I can't read. So I have to listen to audiobooks, and I
You know what
can't
you
find
do?
the audiobooks.
Check YouTube. Sometimes people upload themselves reading books.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check it out.
I've seen a lot of books that.
Because I've been wanting to get into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
If you're
Yeah.
desperate for your Christmas present, I'll read one of them and do something for you. Or Patrick will. He's got a better actor's voice than me.
No, not today.
Not today.
Discworld, you talk about a universe. Holy God, is that universe enormous and deep. I mean, it's got 12 addendums, companions to Discworld. There's 12 volumes of that.
It feels like one of those worlds that you could really get lost in. And
Oh,
I
easily.
miss that so much. When I was a kid, I was so into Lord of the Rings. It was a little bit on the spectrum, kind of. That's how obsessed I was. I couldn't I was I
for
could.
that.
Yeah, I could exactly. And I felt like I could have gone down that path. Once I got to college, I kind of went the other way and kind of planted my feet down a little bit and did the adult thing and all that stuff. But I miss that. I miss that getting so lost in another world that you're just
If there's a series out there
everything
that's
else
going
is
to do
gone.
it to you, it's going to be Discworld.
I can't. All right.
Did
I'm
you
gonna
ever
look
hear
for
the
it.
story of Keith Allen? This comes from Carl Sagan's book, Demon Haunted World. There was somebody in the 50s named Keith Allen. He was a student at Princeton, I believe, and he was lost in this fantasy world. He claimed through quantum mechanics he could get to this fantasy world, almost like Lord of the Rings. So one of the professors tried to bring him out of it by saying, you go into his world, then you show him all the things that aren't working, you bring him out. Turned out Allen was this really off-the-wall, brilliant, eccentric, and he made all this up. So what happened with the professor, though, he got into it, he got sucked in and started believing it.
Wow.
But I remember you were talking about those books, the King Killer series.
Oh, those, yeah, it's amazing.
Have you ever heard of those?
Oh, is that the
Name of the Wind?
Rothfuss?
Yeah,
Patrick
Rothfuss.
I have to read those at some point.
There's
I've
only
seen
2 books
him...
so far. There's 3. There's supposed to be 3, and
Oh,
everyone's
I
upset.
realized. I didn't realize there was only just a couple.
Well, it's been like years and years, and he's supposed to have the 3rd one out, and everyone's upset with him. And of course, it's like it's not our business to be upset with somebody for not writing a book.
Talk to George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's we should just be grateful that these things exist and not be like it's very entitlement like mentality.
What you really want to do is rush someone who's writing something good.
Yeah, totally.
You really want to rush them.
Exactly. You're pissed off because it's taking long. You force
Malcolm,
them to... force them to,
they wouldn't like Malcolm Bradbury. He was this British author who would write 1 book a decade.
Oh, wow.
And it basically sum up the
previous decade?
Yeah. That's what he would do, 1 book. Or Stanley Kubrick would take forever.
He was just, well, we all know about him. He was
But
just
is
weird.
anybody into Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin? Or?
Nope.
Yeah.
Zach
You
is
guys
not.
aren't. No.
Because
I'm ready for it to be done, though. I'm going to say a controversial
I will say
thing
that
is
I
I'm
have
ready
nothing.
for it.
I watched 2 episodes because somebody told me to. Production value, out of this world.
Yeah.
Acting, out of this world.
Yeah.
It's just not my style. I'm not a big fan of the sword and sandal type shows. I never have been.
Sure.
Unless it was the terrible old Hercules movies.
I have a friend who couldn't get into it because he couldn't like any character.
That's a really good reason.
And I get it. Yeah, it's like even guys like Ned Stark. But Ned Stark he's so black and white that once again he's not relatable either.
I
so
mean,
I
it's
get
like
it.
Breaking Bad or Mad Men. Like they're
I
both
did not
brilliant
like
shows.
Breaking
Yeah.
Bad.
But the characters are so hard to like because they're all terrible
Yeah.
people.
That's the problem I had. Actually, I've been watching Vikings. And one of the things I'm watching, going, this is historically, actually, it's not bad in terms of accuracy.
Right.
But
There's
I'm
a lot
watching,
of guesswork. But,
yeah, there's a lot of,
because
obviously.
they really didn't know.
But the thing I'm looking at, there's nobody I can
All
root
history.
for on here. I know George R. R. Martin said that Tyrion Lannister is his favorite character.
well, it's
Oh,
obvious.
Tyrion's pretty great.
It's obvious.
Yeah,
it was
he's a
his
very
favorite
likable character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
He's not without fault too, but he's
Oh,
very,
no, yeah.
He's just his personality is very likable.
That was the thing I sent on to my friend Kim on her birthday. I said, "You be my Daenerys, I'll be your Tyrion."
Nice.
But even Daenerys is getting.
I adore Daenerys.
She's
Leave
a
me
little
alone.
scary.
Yeah, they're
scary.
and I feel like there's an ending they're building to that is going to make a subset of fans very angry.
Yeah, I'm feeling it too.
But there's a lot of this stuff. We talked about this before. It's almost like War of the Roses.
So that's what it's. Yeah, I mean that was his biggest inspiration was War of the
And I
Roses.
think again
War
we've
of the
talked about
Roses.
like
I
you
don't know what
said,
that is.
No, I mean the actual historical.
Yeah, the War of the
Like
Roses.
Henry VI through,
Oh, okay.
Shakespearean actor.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Huzzah.
yeah.
Cool.
And
But
whatnot.
what about Lord of the Rings? I actually remember going. This is when I was a kid, seeing the Ralph Bakshi film. So I go down there. My mom takes me. We saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland because she took us to the wrong theater. So then I remember there's a Hobbit. You could find this out here if you don't see it. There was a Hobbit, and it's like this little German
Yeah.
thing with the hobbits, and then Ralph Bakshi, and he actually did the thing too where he drew over people.
Oh, I saw some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's-
there are so many bad adaptations of my favorite books that I've stopped going to things.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see Ender's Game. I didn't see The Giver. I didn't see A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh.
Those books are like important to me.
Ender's
I'm like,
Game.
I'm just not
Do
gonna
not
like them.
see Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Do not.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I saw it. I can never read another
Yeah.
Ender book, and that's sad because I like Orson Scott Card.
Yeah.
Then I had the
He's also a
hardcore
horrible
fan.
bigot. I don't
Yeah,
know
I've
that.
heard that.
Yeah,
I've
I've
heard
heard
it
that,
myself.
but I like his writing style.
I know,
He
it's
used to write comic books in the 50s too.
Really?
Yeah. But one of the things, one of my friends, this is the stereotype again. We're going to do a little bit with the D&D. One of my friends, when Lord of the Rings came out, he's talking about going to see it, and he's got the hardcover gold lace book, and I asked him how it was, and he said, "Okay, now this scene was literally one of those where." It's like the typical, okay, on scene 4, this was wrong, and this was wrong.
Oh, boy.
I think there's some people that don't understand what the word adaptation means.
Yeah.
It's you can't put a book on a screen.
No,
can't do
no
everything.
book,
It's
no
not.
book on screen will work.
No, and,
It
and
has
when
to be-
people try too hard to do it, you get stuff that's very, very weird.
The Marshall McLuhan thing, where he said the media is the message, where he said that once you take it from one form to another, it inherently changes. And somebody used Captain America as an example one time, said, okay, his suit looked kind of goofy.
Right. Yep.
And I saw Mysterio, it does look kind of goofy.
Well, yeah, but Mysterio also. There's.
I like Mysterio, little fishbowl guy.
I love how everyone's getting all excited for the multiverse. And all this stuff that was just like this magic hero, Mysterio, who comes from another dimension. It's like, oh, you obviously don't know the character at all.
Yeah.
He's fake. This whole thing.
Did you like the Hobbit movies then?
Awesome.
I stopped watching after the first one because it was so bad. So, no.
Don't sugarcoat it. How did you really feel?
See, no, I didn't like them either.
They weren't good.
I admit that, but
I
actually,
didn't see them because I heard the first one was really shitty.
I saw them all.
second one's got a dragon in it for like 5 minutes. But then Benedict Cumberbatch does the voice.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
to be fair, so did The Great Wall, and that wasn't a very good movie
There
either.
can be slight,
There were a lot of
small
really
elements
good
of things that are
people
good
in it.
without it being a good thing.
You know, the one thing that I got from the first movie, I thought it was terrible, but I also wondered, are they going to do, because it looked like, okay, like when they're going down the rapids, this is going to be a carnival, like a freaking amusement park ride or something.
Kind of, yeah.
But my thought is this. I mean, I can understand why they made The Lord of the Rings into the trilogy. 3 books.
Yeah.
How do you turn a 280-page
Yeah.
book into 3 2.5-hour-long movies?
lot of
Money.
padding.
They
Peter
wanted money.
Jackson,
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah.
If I had a rolled up newspaper, I would find you.
But I'll go back a little bit because we didn't talk. We said you bought like Next Generation. And I
Guillermo del
remember
Toro was
Yeah.
when that
Guillermo-
came out to me,
Can't say it.
one of the things was it took a lot of guts to do it, and they did it right.
Yeah, well, they did some of it right.
Some
There's,
of it.
there's a lot of bad
Oh.
episodes, but it's still great. I mean, I still think about the Inner Light, the episode where there's like a satellite kind of thing, and it beams onto Picard, and he ends up living an entire life on this other planet.
Yeah.
And then like he learns how to play the flute, and he has a family, and he tries to warn the planet about global warming, and they're not listening to him, and the whole planet melts. And it's amazing. And he like wakes up and he's just like had this entire life, and it's an amazing episode.
I like family too. Just after he's captured by the Borg and he has to reconcile with his brother.
Oh yeah, his brother's a jerk.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. And why did they have British accents? Aren't they French?
he's from Navarre, so actually close to Spain and France.
guess
Yes,
Because he's Patrick Stewart.
He played around with a French accent initially, and it did not work.
Well,
yeah.
did you ever see The Hunt for Red
I'm not
October?
really complaining.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever see The Hunt for Red October? You've ever heard Sean Connery be a Russian? Yeah, it worked for about, 2 lines, and then he was like, back to Sean Connery.
yeah.
I give him credit.
I can't imagine that.
He attempted the Russian accent, I think, for a line, and then it's like, nope.
Well, they did the whole they were all speaking Russian, and then they transitioned into.
he's reading the Bible.
Yeah,
and all of a
they
sudden he's
close up
speaking
on it,
English.
and then the camera rolls back, and they're speaking English, which is.
Well, it's like in Vikings where
I am
they're
Captain
speaking
Vladimir,
English
you know.
and they in British accents they're speaking English,
Yeah.
but then they talk to a Frenchman or something, then they speak Swedish.
Well, yeah, it's always. Yeah, because when they're all together, you hear them in English, but when they're with the ancient British, the ancient British people are speaking, and then they're speaking, their language.
Well, Shakespeare is always in British accents, even though they're not always there.
Well, that's an affectation.
But that's kind of like,
it's
yeah.
just.
I was going to say I have to bring one up now. This is because this fits you, but not us actually. We're different on this one. Most people, there's a divide between Buffy and Doctor Who fans,
Yeah.
where I find like we both really. I will bring up like friends of mine who are big Buffy fans or big Doctor Who fans. Oh, how's Buffy? That's okay. But we like both shows, but you never really watched Doctor Who.
I watched a bunch of seasons. I wanted to like it. I just don't.
See?
I just can't get into it.
That's most Buffy fans are like that, though. I found that out.
Which is weird. Like, you'd think that the camp of Buffy would translate over to the camp of Doctor
Well,
Who, but it doesn't.
Doctor Who is also how you're introduced to it. Were you introduced to it with old stuff or with the current stuff?
Current
'Cause
stuff.
That's a fair point.
And
Because you were introduced with probably, arguably, the best doctor there
well,
was.
John Pertwee though first. I saw John Pertwee first.
Yeah.
Tom
I
Baker.
think John
Looking like,
Pertwee
what the
was...
heck are we
I
talking?
don't know.
I think John Pertwee was probably, I'm only on the 4th Doctor, but I think he's still the best one of the 4 so far.
Yeah,
Pertwee did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
but I was going to say now you two were talking. What are you watching? You were saying some shows you were watching lately now.
Oh.
that are,
Umbrella Academy.
yes.
Yeah.
Now that
That was
goes
very
back.
good.
Gerald Ways was singer for My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
And he started writing a comic book called Umbrella Academy, and that's really right now.
See, it's weird. When that first came out, I was like, is this related to Resident Evil? Because I thought Umbrella Corporation.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, and then somebody's like, no, you dumbass. Like, oh, fair enough then.
Yeah. They sound mean.
It's another one of those.
Huh?
They sound mean.
That's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's a show that I actually, How many deep is it? I haven't actually watched any of it yet.
I mean, there's one season. I don't remember how many.
There's one season. All right. Well, I know what I'm doing.
Is great in it. She's really awesome.
Yeah.
I liked her up until this like series, and then I thought, like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like she like kind of turned it up a notch for this.
Yeah.
Part, so it was cool.
It's really good. It's another one of those. It's very quirky, but at the same time, it explores the whole, like, you know, putting, you know, quote unquote superheroes in a context of the real world and how they're just messed up, completely messed up.
I mean, it's like 70% character development, which I think is one of the things that a lot of these kinds of, like, you know, superhero and just like general like fantasy and sci-fi things are missing, is that they focus on all this action and everything, but the action doesn't matter if you don't care about the character.
Like, no, and I'm one of those people. I don't like action movies, really. It's like I want to see the character development and everything.
Right, because when it's like, oh, there's a war, we could all be killed. Who the hell are you?
Yeah, who are you?
Like, why would I care if you died?
Right.
Like,
action sequences in a lot of movies are just kind of zone out.
Yeah.
They're
that too?
I'm just kind of zone out. Yeah, and
they're very effective when done properly. If you give me a character I can care about, and all of a sudden they're in mortal danger, I'm not.
Totally.
Well, you notice this one we're not really talking about because it seems like in terms of books and movies you have issues is Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean the books are great. I didn't love the movies, but you know.
Well, it's also a generational thing too. Like I was working on a show with a bunch of people who are, you know, 20 years younger than me, and they were like, you know, you know, did you read the Harry Potter books when you were a kid? It's like they came out after I was out of college.
Yeah.
So no,
you did not travel back in time.
Up with them, but it's, you know, but I appreciated them for what they were, and I read them, and I thought they were very well.
Well, that's
done.
what they said.
They were entertaining books.
A lot of the fans, they grew up with them, and the way she did it, very smart. Where the characters grew with them every year.
Yeah, I was kind of in that zone a little bit. I was a little bit older than that, but I was like a teenager when I read the first one, and then I kept going, and it was an awesome experience. It was one of those few things like Game of Thrones happening right now, where everybody is on the same wavelength. But you know, you can just feel like the whole cultural thing happening, and like when you're reading that like book when it came out, like, you know, at the midnight, you know, opening at a bookstore or whatever, you could just feel the rest of the country, even like parts of the world, just reading it with you know.
Well, I have to say, one of my friends, hi Marissa, happy graduation from RIT the other day. I had to see Divergent like 5 times. I've never read the books.
Not yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
No, and the other one was the Hunger Games. And the thing was, I was spoiled on that because there's a movie called Battle Royale and a book called Battle Royale, which is a Japanese book.
That was
kick-ass movie, by the way.
It's the Hunger Games done right, I think.
That I can't remember who the girl is in the Japanese version, but damn, was she good in that movie.
I watched the first Hunger Games movie, and then I went to the end of them like I
watched the first one and wanted to punch Donald Sutherland in the face.
Well, you know what they're doing too. You ever notice now they're splitting these into more movies to try to make more money?
Well, I mean,
you have to.
That's how YA fiction works now.
And I'm sorry I watched The Giver because I read the book, but I watched the movie. You don't want to watch the movie. I've seen it.
Not interested because I it's too much a part of me. I can't watch it.
That happens to me a lot, though. It's like when they adapt Coyotes. Like, Caitlyn,
I don't care what they do with Coyotes. If they pay me for something, I will just be able to keep working on comic books. That's all I want to do.
Believe me, I'm the same way.
Like, look what they did to your book. Money.
Have you ever heard that?
Oh, I get to keep drawing for the next 5 years? I don't care. Do whatever you want with it.
Did you ever hear the one thing, if you guys have sold out, we sell out every night. I'm not going to...
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, if selling out means that I get to draw more, I don't care.
I will not. No, I will not. Like do.
It's the argument from the other side.
I would be excited to see it well done.
Oh,
I don't mean to sound like totally jaded. I would be really happy if somebody bought it and did something really cool with it. That would be amazing. I just mean like. I just want to be able to like keep working on comics. That's my whole goal right now.
I will not compromise the integrity of the show. Who's our sponsor this week?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm still working on a couple of angles. Trust me.
Well, Grant Morrison is like that with his stuff. He's very just like
hands off.
No, my view. He's as hands on as you want him to be, but he also like when he hands it off, he's not precious with his work
anymore.
Yeah,
it's a different
there's
world.
another,
interviews are so refreshing. He's not precious with his work, and I'm like,
one of our mutual
some people take it and do cooler things with it.
Totally.
One of our mutual things.
You're handing off that.
One of our mutual things is our love of Tom Waits in Downtown Train. He was asked one time, about Rod Stewart was asked about Tom Waits in Downtown Train, how Tom felt. He said he's real happy with it. Bought him a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not going to look at. Whereas Alan Moore, Peter David said one time, if Alan Moore ever cries poverty, it's his own fault because, if they're going to do it anyways, I just take the money. I don't have that much,
Oh, I don't have integrity.
I'll have integrity when I have millions of dollars and I can afford to have integrity.
I can't afford integrity.
Well, it'd be one thing if you're talking about compromising.
Insufferable is the word I use.
If you're talking about compromising your own thing that you're passionate about, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was like, I'll give you money if you like draw the stuff that you hate drawing and make it terrible, and I'd be like, no, because that's the whole point.
I don't think I could do Ned Beatty's scene in Deliverance ever.
No, if it's what you're passionate about, then that's where your heart is.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. That just left a bad thing open. It's like, if that's what you're passionate about, backwoods sodomy. Did you ever see Deliverance?
No.
Okay.
That explains.
Yeah, that's if you ever hear the thing
here's
about
a cultural touchstone we could walk you down.
Yeah.
Let's just.
Sounds delightful.
No, it's like if you ever hear the
boy.
term paddle faster, I hear banjos.
Okay.
That's to leave you at that. That's not stuff that you probably want to click on Netflix or something.
70s survival.
You all look really happy that you saw it. I can see it in your face.
Yeah, well, no, it's one of those movies.
No, if you ever, we'll give you the one never, ever, ever to watch. If you've never seen it, never watched. I don't even want to say
Please
the word.
bring it up. I
say,
know exactly what you're going to say.
What?
Vulgar.
Oh, that was.
I was tricked into watching that.
Yeah.
Actually, I told
Brian Johnson, but I'm glad he
I told somebody to watch Satan's Little Helper, and he watched it, and the next day he saw me and punched me.
Wow.
Oh, one thing we'll touch on too, because
quality.
it's like one of the elephants in the room, obviously, in terms of these things. Star Wars movies, everything. Thoughts? Anybody?
Done.
Zach's thrilled.
Done.
Yeah, I've lost interest. I don't really.
But they're still going to keep shitting them out because they know they're going to make money.
I
like
Force
them.
Awakens, but I haven't seen any of the newer ones. Like
Last Jedi, I thought was.
I saw Last Jedi. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get what the hubbub is. I liked it.
Weirdly enough, the one I liked the best was the one that wasn't part of the universe, Rogue One.
Rogue One was great.
It was a great movie.
Oh yeah.
It was a really good one.
Nothing that bugged me about. I mean, Last Jedi. I get why people didn't like it, but it didn't bug me. It didn't bug me. Like, my whole thing is, I lived through the prequels. At this point,
You survived the prequel.
yeah.
Good God.
When Luke Skywalker throws a lightsaber away, I laughed out loud.
Well, there was one scene. No, there was one scene in the prequels that got me for good. I just did that groan moment, not just because they were bad. It's in Attack of the Clones, near the beginning, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting the things there, and Obi-Wan turns to Anakin and says, "Someday you're going to be the death of me."
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that one actually hurt me a little bit.
Or the space scene with
they're not
Carrie
our movies
Fisher.
anymore.
Yeah.
In Last
That
Jedi.
was
Not for us.
that was.
Just
That
like the
was a
prequels
little
were also
painful.
for us.
But then again, I suppose in a way, in some of the theme of this, always as I say, it's supposed to have fun, and I suppose we can't take this stuff too
Yeah,
seriously.
no,
Some
totally.
people get really. But I have my friend Mike, the manager of a theater, and he'll tell me stories and say, "Okay, after Last Jedi, there's people crying. There's some guy during one thing banging on the walls. I saw Wrath of Khan in the theaters.
It wasn't that bad.
And people were crying. People were literally sobbing in there.
Oh boy.
Somebody wrote a letter to Starlog saying, I'm just depressed.
Yeah.
And then you realize, look, he's going to direct it. He's kind of alive.
Yeah,
It was
they're
like
gonna bring it
after the
back.
first Avengers movie, people were so upset that all these characters died. Like, you realize they have like 4 movies for each of these characters in the pipe, right?
Well,
They're coming back.
also that's where you learn the difference between movie fans and comic fans. When every time somebody would say that, I'd go, comics?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody dies in comics. Nobody ever dies in
No,
comics.
how many
I remember
times
the
they
death
killed
of
Superman?
Superman.
5 or 6?
100-year-old soap opera.
The death of Superman thing, because remember,
Except for
this was huge.
Captain Marvel and Adam Warlock.
Yep.
or is
Well,
it-
even the thing was Bucky would never come back.
Oh, Bucky.
He came back.
Yeah, Bucky. Yeah, Bucky Barnes.
Well, he
and,
came
and
back,
Captain
though.
Marvel and Bucky Barnes came back.
Speaking
Jean
of-
Grey.
Yeah.
Have
Jean
you
Grey
guys seen
came back.
Spider-Verse? Into the Spider-Verse?
No, it
I loved
looks
it.
hilarious.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
It
It
looks
is
awesome.
a great movie.
Maybe the best
one
comic
of the-
book movie I've ever
It's one of the
seen.
animated ones when every parallel universe has their own Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
It's also like the nerdiest like art movie. Like if you talk to anybody in any kind of art field,
oh my god,
they have just geeked out. Like they'll lose it. They just gush over
every
it.
character is in a different style of animation.
Yeah.
Like
and they use the halftone patterns, and they like do all these cool like throwback things with the animation style. It's amazing.
I told you too that keep an eye out for it if you ever get the chance. I know you're busy, but they have the Studio Ghibli Fest at the theater coming up. Keep an eye on what's playing there.
Coming back.
Talking about art. Yeah. But I had a big thing when I went with my friend who does graphic design to go see Aquaman because Jason's hot. I mean, come on. Yeah. So, and what was great at the end, we were talking. What'd you think of the movie? Not great, not bad. But she was pointing out how really neat the undersea scenes. Like she's pointing out to be okay. Here's how they did the lighting and everything. I have no idea about any of that stuff.
Yeah, sometimes the art direction is just so amazing. It doesn't matter. Like the writing matters, but you can get lost in just the art direction.
That was a big argument of comics in the '90s when they had Image and everything first start because of McFarlane and everybody. That okay, these are really good looking books, but the writing's not so hot.
Yeah, writing's important.
Sure, yeah, totally.
The early Image stuff.
And we were griping about this one, but the 1990s was hard. You remember Gen 13 where they had 13 covers of one issue?
Of the same
and you would have the
book.
hollow foil, and you just want to read a comic book and have to pay like $6.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was just the two. That was also, I think, when multimedia conglomerates were starting to buy up these comic book companies, and they were like, we got to make more money to justify this. And that's that's
like,
everything.
I got it. Let's do this. 15 covers of the same book. Nobody will know.
Oh, buy it.
And they bought them.
The other thing I'll toss out.
There was a shelf life for that.
One question I did want to toss out coming up in terms of movies, comics, anything else. Is there anything you're really looking forward to seeing in the next year or so?
Season 3 of Legion.
Go on about Legion for a few seconds.
Oh my God. Legion is so great. It's so imaginative and it's so creative. It's art directed by a bunch of amazing
I saw
people.
that.
I don't like it.
Well, that's all right. It's
I
not
watched
everybody's cup of
I
tea.
watched the first season. I was like, it's not for me.
It's certainly not for everybody.
No, it's definitely not.
But I can see why people like it.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Sienkiewicz is one of the art directors on board, and I don't. If you guys
Phil
know,
Sienkiewicz, Moon Knight, Daredevil.
He's a legend, and so he's part of it. And you can just, even just looking at it, is
Thanks
just
for
a feast
pronouncing
for
his
the
name right because he never could.
I learned from another.
Yeah, you
person.
have to hear it.
Facebook friend. But the thing about him
I
on
did not appreciate him back in the day because I was just a dumb kid. But like now, you look back at that stuff and it was so
I'll give you my example for that Electra Assassin. I got this book, and I remember looking and going, what the heck am I looking at? So I put it away. Then I got back, wow, he's incredible.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to get used to something.
Well,
so different.
I think, and sometimes a second viewing of it actually makes it better because we've all had that.
I've heard Titans is good. I've heard Titans is good too. It's got everybody in it. My friend Mike.
I want to watch those shows, but I'm trying to figure out because I don't have a way to get them on my television easy.
I have a way. It's called the library. I get them at the library and watch
that's
the
the
whole
thing.
season. I get them at just get
DVD.
Are they already at the Titans and all that stuff?
Probably not, but I just wait.
I
can just wait.
Yeah, I would say I want to see them now. Like Doom Patrol looks great. I've been hearing really good things about that.
I will give you my review of it after I see them. But your taste is like mine usually, so. So that's probably good. The other thing, I'm actually really looking forward. I want to see the Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
I do want to see it. I can't. I know Mothra's so cute. I have my little flesh Mothra, and I love the scene. It's not a spoiler, obviously, it's just a trailer. But I love the scene. Well, Ghidorah's the alpha. We need somebody to take. Is there anything that could beat him? Then they zoomed to Godzilla.
Yeah,
and I thought that was awesome. And the other one I do want to see is Indiana Jones 5 because I admit
I'm curious
because I really thought Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull we could do that and. Freaking Phantom Menace are both two in my horror hutch for terms of movies I look so forward to. And I just want to see them because Harrison Ford said he wouldn't do it unless it was a great script. And they were sort of almost doing this going, we acknowledge the last one
said that last time, though.
Well, if you gave me $60 million, I'd say it was the best movie I ever saw.
Exactly. I don't care what the script says. I get that much. 2 commas? Hell yeah.
Did you ever see the one skit, I think it was Robert Townsend, was like, okay, how was the movie? Did you get paid? It's a good movie. But I'm really looking forward to it because I'm wondering if he'll get killed and regenerate. Because I think they're gonna continue on, but they'll probably continue in the 30s.
Is he the American adventurer Doctor Who?
I'm going to do that at my funeral. I'm going to have somebody pop up in my clothes looking different. You want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. I'll keep you in mind.
There's going to have to be in at least the 50s because, you know.
Yeah, well, if they have a younger guy, but is there anything you're looking forward to? Movies, TV, anything?
I am looking. Oh wow, I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm looking.
I just rub it in.
I know.
Glad you did.
Man, everything's leaving. I'm looking forward to season 4 of The Expanse.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good show.
I've been reading. I've been reading the novels. And they're fun. It's not great literature by any means, but it's very well. It's done in that Game of Thrones POV chapter style, where each chapter is told from a certain.
There's one I've been watching. I wonder how they're going to go with it, but I admit I just get mad at it sometimes and have to back away and can't watch it anymore. Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
It's hard to watch because
it's not entertaining. It's like
it's
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good, but
it's very good.
I had to stop. I haven't watched this season.
I watched the first season, then I just said, okay, let's go watch some funny stuff for a while because this is just getting.
It's hard, man. It's
Well, I don't like when you look at it and go, okay, are we going this way or not? Or sometimes.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways,
in some parts of the world.
In some parts of the world, it's already like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, Margaret Atwood is really an amazing writer, and one of her things that she says is that when she writes science fiction or fantasy or whatever, she only writes about things that have happened already.
Have you seen any of the Oryx and Crank things?
No, I've read one of the books though.
I've never read After the Flood, the sequel. I just read the first one.
I just read After the Flood. I haven't read.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it's really good.
Oh, I have to get it.
Yeah, but there's one of my favorite illustrators, Sam Weber, did this illustration called Oryx, and I didn't know what it was from until like recently. But it's a beautiful drawing. It's like this painting of this girl, and she has these like frog eyes and these like shells painted all over her skin and stuff. And
I think they do really good. A lot of comic adaptations, the art and everything, they do a really, really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there is something. I saw a commercial for it. As we record this, it's not out yet, but by the time we air this, it might be. May 27th, they're doing a mini-series version of The Hot Zone.
Oh, I saw a commercial,
too.
What's The Hot Zone?
The Hot Zone was
naughty viruses,
a book about a viral outbreak in Virginia in, the mid-90s? And I think it was not Ebola, but the one worse than Ebola.
Oh, like bubonic plague?
And it was something. It was like I can't remember what. God damn it! That's going to drive me nuts. But they're making a mini series out of it on the National Geographic Channel.
Okay.
That book scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. Was it one of those so real?
Because it was real.
Yeah.
It's not like it was so real it could be real. It did happen.
It happened. Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the other ones I'll touch on too is I finally watched
outbreak. They contained.
I finally watched Van Helsing the first season, and they really sort of like trying to be Resident Evil. They made the mistake of saying the heroine's like Buffy Summers. You do not compare anybody to Buffy Summers.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
And weirdly, the guy that wrote the Hot Zone, his brother is Douglas Preston. And I can't remember, Stephen Preston, I think, is the guy that wrote The Hot Zone. But Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child do a couple of series, like the Vandergraft or Vandergrift series, something like that, or Pendergrast, the Pendergrast series.
But I think, this is like almost like a series. This could be like a trilogy.
I know. Do I have
like doing this and coming back?
Do I have to title this one as a new show? Yeah, genre films. With Caitlyn and Patrick.
Yeah.
There we go.
Talking genre.
Yeah.
Talking genre.
Sorry, if anybody could come up with a good name.
Let me know. Cool. You guys know how to get a hold of me.
As long as it's fun to come on, you're always welcome on.
Absolutely. Come on back.
I have a blast.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
Who wants to outro this thing?
Well, first of all, you have a plug, even if you don't know D&D.
Yeah, we're gonna play D&D at some point.
Caitlin's looking at me like, good luck with that.
We're gonna play D&D. I think we're gonna put it on video.
Oh, we are. And I told him earlier, I was like, you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna constantly roll twos. He's like, another fireball up your ass, Zach.
Well, Straight Giant, they want to play. Fine. Tommy and the boys will come dressed as transgender punk singers from Ireland in the 70s. So they'll fit in. I wear a major and elf hat or something.
I've heard worse excuses to play D&D. No, I'm curious because having never played it, having really never even seen anybody play it.
Yeah.
My plan is
I'll let you know. Swing by.
This works best if you run it straight, and then everyone just kind of is themselves in a way.
Oh, I'll be myself.
And then I don't feel like I have to present a ridiculous scenario. I just have to present a very D&D scenario, and I already have an idea what it's going to kind of modify an existing thing.
Well, I sent you a clip.
And then see what you do.
Well, I sent you the clip. If you ever watch iZombie, you might like it. I like Mike Holder's art.
Pardon me.
But so anyways, she eats the brains and she gets the personality, tries to solve a murder. There's a D&D player, so she becomes a dungeon master. So they do the stereotype. She's sitting down there with this goofy hat in the basement, rolling the dice, and she's doing this look, and it's like everybody's stereotype of.
Yeah.
But what's on the horizon? I've seen some of your art for it. It's incredible, I have to say that.
So I'm working on a new series with the same writer, Sean Lewis, that we did Coyotes together. So yeah, just follow me on social media for now. We're gonna, as soon as I finish the first issue, we're gonna pitch it and see if
it's
Image
Caitlyn
takes it.
Yarsky, in case they don't know. We could put it all up as usual. And
His
I've been reading
Instagram
some of Sean's other stuff too, because I've expanded.
Yeah,
you should check out Thumbs. That's his new thing.
I actually was going to say
Sound like my gardening.
I read his stuff. I was like, you know what?
He's doing he did a new book.
And I keep selling the Caitlyn Yarsky stuff there. I got another copy of Coyotes people that bought it and they've loved. And that's the one thing when I was reading Alabaster Wolves, it's not the same at all, but it's the same genre sort of. It reminded me of that.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited about this new series, and I think it's going to be
art
even better.
It's really. How long does it take you to do that?
Oh
yeah. Sorry.
It's taking too long. I'm really shooting myself in the foot with how much detail I'm putting in these, so I got to scale it back.
Do you ever wonder how do those people, like I know George Perez goes in it where they have to stick everybody and their mother in a drawing?
Yeah, and then people who do monthly things, the last 3 issues of Coyotes, I've like killed myself doing like monthly issues, and I'm like, I'm never doing that pace again. I just can't do it.
Well, I think it affects, doesn't it? It also affects the work too. I'd rather have it come out and be. Yeah. Plus, not have the artist drop over.
I'd rather wait for the quality than just get it because I want it.
Yeah, I didn't want to like sacrifice the quality. So I was just in my studio, like basically living in there. Like how many hours a day, and going home just to sleep and then coming back.
Then they're done now with the art with the dad. So yes, but it's been very fun. Hope everybody's had fun.
Yeah.
And Buffy slays tonight, and we're gonna go see Dingo Eats My Babies. And I love when I have that shirt on and people come up to me who know me and go,
Nice.
Music.
So cool. Yes, and we have Auld Lang Syne again.
Yeah.
When they're in Arizona now, you said that.
Yeah, they are.
But they're a very good band. You play violin for. It's singing. There's I really enjoy them, and
they're wonderful.
And they're really cool and everything else. And what else can I say? I won't have bands on here that stink, so I don't have any of your music on, Pat.
Yeah, no, you don't want to hear my.
We Gothic Toad. That's the one band though.
We dare not speak
they will
their
pull,
name.
and we've had them on, but they're one of these bands. If you've never heard of them, you're not from here. They were this band for a long time, but literally they have a lawyer around. If you put when we have them on the show, they won't play the music.
Yeah,
when they're on the show.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Okay.
No, because they were popularity. The fame came so fast they couldn't take it.
We asked politely, and a Blade was produced. So we're like, you know what? Okay.
So, but unlike them, we're going to play. Is there anything you care about, like particular?
I love all of these.
So no, we'll do. Let's do it again. One of you two, just pick a number. Don't pick number one because we played it before.
Okay, how many numbers are on the?
Well, let's have Patrick do it because you picked for the Psycho disc from Street Johnny.
I definitely did that.
Goes
so thanks, Internet. Or you're welcome, Internet.
It's like a bunch of. Just go like from 2 through 10.
6.
Let's see if I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Geronimo.
That's a great one.
Hi-yo.
There we go. You picked a good one.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so we'll play Auld Lang Syne's Geronimo. Thanks, courtesy of Patrick.
Thank you, guys. Come back again. We're going to make this a series.
Cool.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Nothing to break like the sun from me. the desert needs rain, and it's been so very long since it came, and I feel my heart wandering like it's looking for rain. Oh, I feel my heart wandering, and I know I can't stay. Oh, I know I can't stay. So I'll take me a feather and blow it away where it stands on the ground. I'll make it a grave. I was born